Today's video, I want to do a review, or not a review, but an analysis of two up-and-coming young guns that are doing really well. And the reason I like to do these kind of analysis is because they have a one-handed backhand. Now, some key things to look for while we're doing this is that even though they're two different players, kind of two different styles of play, similar but still different, I want you to understand that there's core fundamentals with every stroke. And it's so easy to look at one player and go, well, they do this so much different, and it creates this difference. But when you really get down to the nitty-gritty, the fundamentals are always there for the top players generally. Yeah, there might be a couple things that might be missing, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, you're going to constantly see the same fundamentals. And I want you to understand what those fundamentals are, because it's so important as you're developing your strokes to not get caught up in cosmetics, but you understand the fundamentals behind it. So we have two players here, and we have Dominic Thiem and Stefano Tsitsipas. Both guys having a really good kind of hot area of their career. And so let's examine their one-handed backhand. So we're gonna start off kind of going toe-to-toe with each part of their stroke and breaking it down so you understand what's important and what is potentially cosmetically different. Okay, so let's start off with Thiem right here. So the biggest thing you're gonna see first of all is after the split step, him using his outside leg. Now sometimes you may not see the outside leg move if they're moving inside and he's actually trying to run, maybe practice his backhand a little bit and run inside, and you'll see the step go inside. But I would say 99% of the time when he's moving in the direction of the backhand, you're gonna see the outside leg come up and pivot in that direction. So as we look at this here and watching him, you can see that he's even though he's scooting around, you can see how this foot's coming up to allow him the movement. And it sets him up. Now, not only that, as he's moving this foot, you're seeing his shoulders turn to set the racket up in this core unit turn position. So you have two things going on. You have the foot moving, the outside leg moving to prepare, and you have the unit turn, which means he's just turning his shoulders to help prepare the racket. When we look at Tsitsipas, you're going to see the exact same thing. Definitely picking up this leg or this foot, this toe's pointing in the direction he wants to move, and not only is he moving like I talked about before, but then you see the preparation of the unit turn and then a slight take back. The big mistake a lot of players make where they see cosmetics is they think it's just the racket. They're just moving the racket, which causes a lot of issues because they're not coiling the body, using their body and the big muscle groups. The next thing you're going to see, you'll see a little bit here, is that this huge weight transfer is about to happen. As he sets this outside leg here, you can see how his front foot's up, ready to start stepping forward, but not applying the weight he's going to transfer into the shot. Also by this, you see him take his racket back a little bit. And I think this is really important that it's not just the arm swing, but it's the racket going back just a little bit after his unit turn. So he has his unit turn here, and then the actual backswing is about right here. Go to Tsitsipas, you can already see the setup with the front toe off the ground, and same thing, little take back from the unit turn here. Here's the actual take back, and him ready, loading the back leg to push forward into the shot. The next thing, which my favorite thing, is what I call the butt pull position. And this is by far, I think, the most either not talked about or underutilized thing in the recreational player kind of community, is this understanding of what the racket has to do to create a bunch of leverage. And this is why when you look at a one-handed backhand, if you don't know what you're looking for, you'll say, oh, they hit a great one-handed backhand because they're just so strong. You got to be so much stronger than everybody else to hit a one-handed backhand, and I'm not strong, so my backhand's weak. It's not about strength per se, it's about leverage, meaning that they're using a little bit of leverage in the way they're holding and pulling the racket to get a lot more energy return on the end of it. And we're going to see that here. So as we step through, you're going to see Thiem get into this position here, and this is what I call the butt pull position. Now, a couple things are happening here. Because of the racket, you see the butt of the racket in this position, it really leverages his arm. And a couple of other things is that you notice how in this position now, he's really set to use the rest of his body as he's transferring his weight. His weight's going up through his legs, going to go through the hip, the shoulder, and you can see this nice little kind of the way I want to describe is tension, and I don't mean like tension in the sense that he's getting tight. It's tension because he's stored energy in his shoulder and his core, and he's going to release it. And this is where you sometimes see a little bit of a cosmetic difference. that you'll probably see both of these players do. Sometimes I see Stan have a little bit different take back, and what I mean by that is the way he's dropping his racket. You can see that his strings are facing pretty vertical here, and then even here, still facing slightly up. And most players kind of fall in between either this kind of position or the racket strings closed. Either way, most players fall into this position, which is hugely important, which is the butt pull position, which leverages the racket. Let's look at Stefano. Same thing here. You see how his racket face is slightly open. This leverage position with the butt of the racket, he has this great, what I call tension before, but again, don't get it confused with being tight tension versus tension because he's storing energy from stretching. So as he's stretching here, everything has been set. The stage has been set for him to basically continue that weight transfer, uncoil his hips, pull his shoulders, which is going to leverage the racket into the ball. You're going to see that in a second. So from here, we see that leverage pull, and it's really important from this position here that a lot of players make this mistake is that they start flapping the wrist forward to try to create power, compared to, as you're going to see here, where Dominic is going to pull the hand forward. And what you're noticing, a couple things here, which I think is really crucial. If you watch his wrist, there's no kind of flopping forward. It's completely being pulled and powered by his hip here. And you can really see it as you kind of watch this Adidas sign here, how it comes around. And then he's transferring that weight up to his shoulder. And that now is being transferred down to the hand and then the racket. And the reason why I think the butt pull position is so important, it acts as a hammer. If you ever used a hammer before, you have the kind of heavier part on the head of it, you have this long kind of stem, and then you have the handle at the end. What happens is, if you're using it properly, just by pulling down, you're going to accelerate the head of the hammer a lot faster than the actual distance you're pulling the racket, the hammer down. So it sends that energy into the nail. And so this same principle is being applied here, meaning this is the hammerhead, this is the handle being pulled into, per se, the ball, the nail. And so you can see where the contact is. He does a great job, and you see how he's a little bit probably more open than you'll see most players. We'll check out Stefano in a second. So same principle here, the butt pull, pulling the racket into the contact, that hammer kind of type pull, the great extension with the arm. You see his shoulders aren't as open as Dominic, but again, I don't think it's a cosmetic thing, it's just a little bit of a preference thing, which I guess could be a cosmetic thing if you want to look at it. But you don't see one thing I want to make sure you're clued in on, is you don't see this, which I hear a lot of players being told, to stay sideways and just pull this way. That's incorrect. You're not using the rest of your body. And the other extreme side of it is open completely up, which you're not seeing. It's in between, and there's this variance about how much they want to open up. From here, you're going to see him extend his arm, and his racket tends to release forward a little bit and decelerating. And really important, I'm going to back up one other step because I think this is super crucial, is noticing the release of the hand. As the left hand is on the racket, it stays with the racket, all the way, it's still touching the racket, and he's moving forward. So a lot of players are taught like, okay, I'm going to swing, I'm going to let go and swing. Well, in actuality, the hand's staying all the way down pretty much until, let's see where it releases. His hand's next to his pocket, and right here is where he releases. So I think in a lot of players' minds, they think this early release and this huge separation, when it's just not true. And then we got the contact, the full extension, and then you see where the hand is as it works as a counterbalance as the opposite hand is released. And you can see his release going up and around because in his approach to the ball, he's coming up to the ball, imparting topspin with his swing. Okay? Now let's go to Stefano, same thing. If you come back, his hand's still on right here. We'll step it through, and right around here is where he releases. Great contact. He's coming, again, up to the ball and lets that arm release. And you notice how the hand comes back to act as this counterweight to the shot. So really important understanding that having a great one-handed backhand isn't so much about being strong. Everybody, I hear this so much. I have to be strong to have a great one-handed backhand. It's about leveraging your body the proper way. using your entire body through a weight transfer, through sending that energy up, and then having that great preparation with what we call the butt pull position to leverage the hammer pulling the head into the ball, which now accelerates the racket head, allowing them to hit really, really, really great one-handed backhands. So I'd love to hear what you think about this, and if there's anything that you kind of clicked for you at home about what are the things that you could be missing. Another thing is I want to thank Love Tennis and Topspin Tennis for providing these clips, because it's so, so important for us so we can do this analysis. And if you're wondering how can you figure out how to hit better strokes, how to play a better, have a better tennis game, check out Essential Tennis's free membership. If you go there, you can sign up for free and get an account where you can have access to a lot of great information to improve your tennis game.